The judge stared right into my soul and declared, "We're ready to make a ruling." My heart plummeted. Could this be the end? I could barely breathe, my hands gripping the courtroom table so hard my nails carved into the wood. Was I really about to lose my son? Then, like a miracle, my 6-year-old Theo sprang up from the gallery. Can you imagine that he marched to the center of the courtroom, clutching a crumpled piece of paper he'd tucked into his Spider-Man backpack that morning? His voice, soft but steady, cut through the silence. "Your Honor," he said, "I want to read something." The room froze, no whispers, no rustling, nothing, every eye locked on him. This tiny boy, drowning in his oversized navy sweater, stood before the judge holding that letter like it was his lifeline. I was speechless, paralyzed, just staring at him as my heart pounded so fiercely it ached. What could he possibly say to change everything? I'm Jessica Carter, 33, a freelance graphic designer and Theo's mom. He's 6, obsessed with dinosaurs, slathers peanut butter on everything, and insists on sleeping with the lights on. He's got my eyes and his dad's calm, watchful nature. Life wasn't always a nightmare before all this. It was simple. Not flawless, but ours. We lived in a cozy 2-bedroom house on the edge of town. Rent was doable, and the backyard had just enough room for a sandbox and a creaky secondhand swing set. It wasn't fancy, but it was home. 2 years ago, my husband, Aaron, Theo's dad, died in a car accident. It was a dreary, rainy Tuesday. How could I forget I was stirring chicken stir-fry when the call came? I haven't touched that dish since. Losing Aaron shattered me. We'd been together since college. He was my safe haven. That day, I didn't just lose my partner. I lost the future we'd planned. But Theo, he was my anchor, my reason to keep going. After Aaron's death, days melted into a haze. Grief and exhaustion consumed me. But I showed up for Theo. Every morning, I'd pack his little lunchbox, walk him to kindergarten with a forced smile, then collapse at home, sobbing into laundry piles. He never saw me crumble. I made sure of that. He needed me strong, so I became his rock. We grew closer than ever. Theo would snuggle next to me on the couch, his favorite blanket draped over us, whispering, "Don't be sad, Mommy. I'm here." He didn't need many words. His presence was enough. Isn't that what love does? Then there was Margot, my mother-in-law. From day one, she disapproved of me. Too unpolished, not from the right family. Can you believe that she once told Aaron right in front of me that I was a good-hearted girl who should have stayed in her lane? Aaron laughed it off, saying she'd warm up. Spoiler, she never did. After Aaron passed, Margot weaseled into our lives with this eerie persistence. At first, I thought she was grieving, wanting to stay close to Theo. I welcomed her, invited her to birthdays, school recitals, family dinners. But her snide remarks never stopped. "You let him stay up too late. He needs structure. Stop coddling him emotionally." She'd scoff when I sang Theo a bedtime lullaby or let him pick his quirky, mismatched outfits. Her silent judgment was relentless. Could she be any more obvious? One afternoon, I caught her in the kitchen, handing Theo a brochure for some elite private prep school I'd never heard of. When I said we couldn't afford it, she sipped her tea and smirked. "Well, some environments are just better for children. Not every mother gets that." The nerve. I stayed quiet, but started setting boundaries, fewer visits, strict rules. That's when her warmth turned to ice. Margot began questioning everything: my job, my finances, my parenting. One day, Theo came back from a weekend with her and asked Mommy would I be happier living with Grandma. My heart shattered. Had she really planted that in his head? That wasn't love or support. It was control. Margot didn't just think I was failing. She wanted to take over. She saw my vulnerability and pounced. 2 weeks later, a thick envelope landed at my door. Legal papers. A custody hearing. She was trying to steal Theo from me. When I saw a petition for custody, my hands went numb. I slumped onto the kitchen floor, the letter crumpling in my fists. Theo was in the living room, giggling at cartoons, oblivious to the storm, threatening to rip his world apart. How could she do this? Her petition demanded full custody, not shared, not supervised, full. She claimed I was emotionally unstable, financially shaky, and unfit to give Theo a stable home. Pages painted me as a grieving mess who couldn't even dress her kid properly, let alone raise him. The worst part, she wasn't entirely wrong. Yes, I was grieving. Yes, I had moments where I sobbed in the shower or forgot the laundry. But I showed up for Theo every single day. I fed him, hugged him tight, helped with his homework, kissed his forehead when nightmares woke him. I was his safe haven. And now someone dared to say that wasn't enough. I called my older sister Lena, who sped over within the hour. She read the papers twice, her jaw tight. "She's playing dirty Jess, but you can't let her win," she said. Her words lit a fire in me. I hired a public defender, couldn't afford anything else. He was kind but swamped, offering only, "Stay calm, be respectful, document everything." Not exactly inspiring. Meanwhile, Margot had a top-tier family lawyer, a shark who thrived on high-stakes custody battles. I started journaling every interaction, gathering Theo's school reports, pediatrician notes, photos, teacher emails, anything proving he was healthy, happy, safe. Every night after Theo slept, I sat on the living room floor surrounded by folders and emails, old sitcom reruns humming softly to keep my sanity intact. Was I doing enough? Court was terrifying. The first hearing was just procedural, but it rattled me. Margot sat there in her crisp navy suit looking like a corporate titan. She smiled at Theo, but her eyes tracked me like a predator, sizing up prey. Her lawyer, slick and confident, twisted tiny truths into vicious flaws. "She has no steady income," he sneered. "She barely works from home. No family nearby to help. She's anxious, still grieving her husband. Miss Carter, though well-meaning, isn't emotionally fit for Theodore's long-term needs." I wanted to scream. How dare they say that made me a bad mom? But I stayed still calm, respectful as my lawyer advised. At home, Theo sensed the tension. One night after brushing his teeth, he looked up and asked, "Am I going to have two homes now?" My heart broke. How could I answer that I lied? "No, baby, mommy's just handling grown-up stuff. It'll be okay." But inside I was terrified. Margot's tactics grew nastier. She called Child Protective Services with an anonymous tip claiming I left Theo alone all day. A caseworker showed up unannounced during a client Zoom call, talk about timing. Theo was at the kitchen table building Legos in his PJs. I answered every question, showed her the house offered contacts for his teachers and doctor. She left politely, but her visit haunted me like a shadow. The next night I locked the door and wept into the laundry basket. That week, Theo drew me up picture stick figures of us holding hands in front of our house, a speech bubble above my head saying, "I love you more than everything." I pinned it to the fridge and stared at it, tears welling. I didn't know how this would end, but one thing was certain: I'd fight for my son with everything I had. The night before the final hearing, sleep eluded me. I sat at the kitchen table, a cold mug of tea beside me, papers spread out like a fortress, teacher emails praising Theo's progress, pediatrician notes on his health, his school drawings, even a flyer from our Tuesday Mommy and Me library reading hour. I had to prove Theo wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. But doubt crept in. What if the judge saw me as Margot did? What if my grief made me seem weak? Could my love for Theo be enough? Doubt slithered into my mind like a thief in the night. What if the judge saw me through Margot's cold, critical eyes? Could my grief make me seem too weak to be a mom? Would my gentle, honest heart be twisted into proof I wasn't fit to raise my son? I was spiraling. Then Lena, my rock of a sister, showed up to help me prepare. She brought a bag of snacks I couldn't stomach, and a folder stuffed with memories, photos from Theo's third birthday, his first day of preschool, a goofy selfie of us baking cookies, flour dusted across our grinning faces. "You've got everything you need, Jess," she said, her hand warm over mine. "Just let them see the real you, how fierce your love is." Her words were a lifeline, pulling me back from the edge. Later that evening, after Lena left, I peeked into Theo's room and found him sitting cross-legged on the floor, scribbling on a piece of lined notebook paper. "What's that, buddy?" I asked, kneeling beside him, my curiosity piqued. He looked up, his 6-year-old eyes carrying a weight no child should bear. "I'm writing a letter for the judge," he said so matter-of-fact it stunned me. "A letter, really?" He nodded, serious as ever. "Just in case they don't know how much I want to stay with you, Mommy." My throat tightened. How could such a tiny heart hold so much love? "Theo, that's so sweet, but you don't have to," I started, but he cut me off quick and firm. "I won't say anything mean about Grandma. I just want them to know what it's like with you." He folded the paper into neat quarters, slipped it into his Spider-Man backpack, and said, "I'll bring it just in case." Part of me wanted to stop him. How could I let my little boy carry this burden? But the other part, the one that knew how wise, kind, and deeply feeling Theo was, just wrapped him in a tight hug, my heart swelling with pride. The next morning was chilly and gray, the kind of day that feels heavy before it begins. Theo wore his favorite navy sweater, the one with the cute dinosaur patch on the sleeve. Don't you just love how kids cling to their favorite things? I braided his hair into a little bun, just the way he liked, and tucked an extra granola bar into his bag just in case. We sat in the back of the courtroom, silent, my hand clutching his. Margot swept in draped in a designer coat and patent leather heels, her lawyer trailing with a briefcase that screamed, "Money more expensive than my entire closet." I tried not to stare, focusing instead on Theo's warm hand in mine grounding me. When the judge called us forward, I stood with my lawyer taking a shaky breath. Margot's attorney went first, his voice smooth as he preached about financial stability routine and the so-called benefits of a two-parent household. Apparently, Margot could fake that with a nanny and tutors. He painted my home as a chaotic mess, my heart as too fragile to handle motherhood. The nerve I kept my face calm, remembering Lena's words, "Let them see who you are." When my turn came, I spoke steadily, sharing our daily routines, school drop-offs, homework help, bedtime stories under the glow of Theo's nightlight. I showed proof of his progress, his friendships, the safe, happy world we'd built. No tears, no pleading, just the truth, raw and real. Just as the judge leaned forward to wrap things up, Theo tugged my hand. My heart skipped. What was he doing? He stepped out from the bench and walked slowly to the front, clutching that folded piece of paper. "Your Honor," he said, his small voice clear as a bell. "Can I read something?" The judge blinked, caught off guard. "You wrote something, son." Theo nodded, so sure of himself. "Yes, sir. It's for you." The courtroom went dead silent. Can you feel the weight of that moment? Even Margot froze, her face unreadable. The judge glanced at me, then back at Theo. "All right," he said. "Go ahead." Theo unfolded the paper, smoothed it on the desk, and cleared his throat, standing tall despite his tiny frame. He held that paper like it was fragile as glass, his voice steady as he began. "My name is Theo Carter. I'm 6 years old. I like dinosaurs, grilled cheese, and playing with my mom. I want to live with my mom." The room was still as stone, the judge leaning forward, hands clasped under his chin. Theo kept reading his words, piercing my heart. "My mom gives me hugs when I feel bad. She makes pancakes on Sundays and lets me pour the syrup even when I spill it everywhere. She laughs at my jokes, even the silly ones that don't make sense. When I have nightmares, she lets me sleep in her bed. She calls me her heart." My throat closed up, tears burning my eyes. How could I not cry? I didn't blink. Didn't want to miss a single second of my brave boy. Theo's little fingers tightened around the paper as he went on. "Sometimes we miss my dad and we cry together. But then she tells me stories about him and we light a candle and we say good things. She says it's okay to be sad and okay to be happy again too." He paused, looking up at the judge with those big, earnest eyes. "I know Grandma loves me, but she says my mom is too soft. I think soft is good. I don't want to live somewhere that doesn't let me feel things. I want to live with the person who lets me be a kid." He folded the letter carefully, scanning the silent room. Even Margot's gaze dropped. "I just thought you should know," he said softly. "Thank you." Then he walked back, slid into the seat beside me, and grabbed my hand. I wanted to sob, but I held it together barely. The judge watched us silent for what felt like forever, the tension crackling like a storm about to break. Finally, he spoke. "This court acknowledges the statement given by the minor, Mr. Theo Carter. We usually avoid having children testify, but his words are clearly his own, reflecting a profound emotional clarity. I find them compelling." My heart soared, then froze. Compelling wasn't a ruling. He turned to Margot's attorney. "I've reviewed the petition and evidence from Mrs. Langston's team. There's no documented abuse, no medical concerns, no professional testimony deeming Miss Carter unfit. Financial disparity alone isn't enough to tear a child from his mother, especially when his emotional well-being is so clearly strong and bonded." Margot opened her mouth, but the judge raised a hand, stopping her cold. "Furthermore," he said, "the child's sincere, articulate desire to stay with his mother carries significant weight." He looked at me, his face softening. "Ms. Carter, this court finds you fit to retain full legal and physical custody of your son. Visitation with Mrs. Langston can be discussed through mediation, but there's no reason to pursue permanent removal." I couldn't move. Had I heard that right? It was like a 2-ton weight lifted off my chest. My legs wobbled, my hands trembled, but I pulled Theo into my arms. He clung to me, his arms around my neck like always when he needed safety, but this time I needed him. Margot said nothing as we passed her, sitting rigid, jaw-tight, hands clutching her purse. I didn't gloat, didn't even glance her way, just kept walking, Theo's hand in mine, my heart full. Outside, the sun peeked through, warming the air just a bit. Theo squinted up at me, his smile bright. "Did I do okay, Mommy?" I knelt and kissed his forehead. "You saved us, sweet boy." The next day, our house felt lighter even though nothing physical had changed. Theo still woke early, tugging me to the kitchen for cereal, the same lavender candle scent drifting through breakfast. But inside me, something had shifted. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I'd fought for my son and won. That morning, I spotted Theo's letter taped to the fridge with a dinosaur magnet, his name scrawled in red crayon, a tiny heart beside it. I read it again, line by line, until tears blurred my vision, and I had to sit. He wrote it for me, not for the judge not to win, but because he saw me, felt our bond, and stood up to protect it. How could a 6-year-old be so brave? That afternoon, we hit the park, just us two. I let him swing way too long and bought him ice cream dinner, be damned. At home, he asked to call his dad's old number like we used to. I held the phone as he whispered, "Daddy, the judge said I get to stay with Mommy." I was brave just like you. I couldn't hold back the tears, then could you? People often underestimate kids, don't they? They assume being young means being clueless, but Theo, he saw it all. He felt the tension hanging over us, noticed the stress etched on my face, caught the hushed phone calls I thought he'd missed, and sensed those nights I lingered by his bed watching him sleep. He picked up on every heartbeat of our struggle, can you believe that? Yet through it all, he chose hope, he chose love. A few weeks later, we sat down with a court-appointed mediator to hash out Margot's visitation rights. It was tense, like walking a tightrope, but we kept it civil. I agreed to supervise visits once a month, not because I wanted her in our lives, but because Theo, with his big tender heart, loved her in his own way. How could I teach him that love has to come with hate? Margot never apologized, not for the custody battle, not for the lies she spun in court, not for trying to tear apart the life I'd fought so hard to build. But you know what? Her actions no longer had the power to shatter me. Through this ordeal, I learned something profound. Being a mom isn't about perfection. It's not about having the fanciest house, the flashiest job, or all the answers. It's showing up exhausted and all putting Theo's needs above my pride, my fear, my pain, giving love freely, even when I doubted it was enough. But to him, it was everything I used to think. My softness, my tears, my tight hugs made me weak, proving Margot right. Oh, how wrong I was. Soft isn't weak, it's safe. It's strong where it counts most. Theo taught me that, and I'll never forget it. Sometimes I still wake up at 3 a.m., heart racing, terrified. The court ruling was a dream. I tiptoe down the hall, peek into Theo's room, and see him sprawled out, legs tangled in blankets, mouth slightly open, clutching his stuffed tiger like it holds the universe's secrets. That's when I breathe. Aren't we more than okay? We're whole if you're a parent, or you fought to protect someone you love. You get this, don't you? That gut-wrenching panic of powerlessness, the fire it ignites in your soul. You know what it's like to be dismissed, told you're not enough. But hear this, your love matters even when it's quiet, even when it's doubted. You're doing better than you think, trust me. If this story tugged at your heart, maybe reminded you of a loved one or a battle you faced, please like this video. It means the world. Share it with someone who needs a spark of hope. Maybe someone in a custody fight or just holding their family together day by day. Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your story. Have you ever been told you weren't enough? How did you rise above it? If you crave more real, powerful stories like this, tales of strength, love, and life-changing moments, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss what's next. Thank you for being here, for listening, for caring, from my heart to yours.